welcome. This is a Science and Technology Serving Humanity Practical Considerations parallel session. I'm your moderator, Kristine Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Paul Arveson will be speaking on progress in meeting energy needs of the world's poor.
Hello, this is Paul Arveson. I'm speaking about progress in meeting energy needs of the world's poor. This is a picture of Chantal in Burkina Faso cooking in the traditional way with a round bottom pot over a 3-stone wood fire. She is outside, but often women cook indoors where smoke exposure is a big health problem. But she's meeting the needs of her family, hot meals every day. In addition to raw foods, that meal requires fuel, labor, water, and lots of time. But in sunny places like Burkina Faso, there's a better way. This is a picture of refugee camps in Jordan. This is a consequence of the Syrian war. The women and children and old men flee. There are now over 85 million refugees around the world who have no home. They're just on the move, running somewhere to save their lives. Even if the UNHCR gives them food, how do they cook it? Generally in the traditional way, like I showed. So after I retired from a career in physics and engineering, I thought about what I should do in my remaining time, and I wanted to focus on some humanitarian or environmental cause, but I didn't want to do something that a lot of other people were already doing. So in my retirement, I chose to work in the field of solar cooking. In 2009, I joined the board of a local nonprofit in the Washington, D.C. area, Solar Household Energy, or SHE. Here are some of my colleagues from around Metro Washington. Notice, this is not a Christian organization. My focus meant that I had to widen my collaboration to embrace many people with humanitarian interests. So what is a solar cooker? Solar cookers are simple low-tech devices to cook food without photovoltaic panels or any other expensive technologies, so they could provide an affordable source of energy for the poor. And the only high-tech part of them is a metallized polyester film or mylar plastic film. There are many different designs. Here are some typical types. There are panel types such as the Cook Kit and Hot Pot, which are some brand names. Box cookers that have a glass cover and a black box, or parabolic reflector types. Various sizes and shapes and designs are out there. This map shows the annual amounts of solar radiation that are available around the world. The red areas here are suitable for solar cooking for most of the year. You can see that some regions on every continent are suitable for this technology. In a clear sky, the sun provides about 1,000 watts of power per square meter and is distributed freely and equally to everyone. Here's retired engineer Roger Haynes. He has been improving his solar cooker design, and he's now selling his very powerful low-cost cookers through Amazon. He has also been to Kenya and Uganda with his Rotary Club members to promote solar cooking, and he is one of the board members of our organization, Solar Household Energy. Here's a solar cooker made with local materials. Sharon Clausen, another designer in San Diego, made this solar cooker using palm leaf matting. This shows that they could be made from local materials and local labor in many places around the world that have these kinds of materials and skills. There's no need for high-tech materials except for the shiny mylar film. Here is the founder of SHE, Louise Meyer, demonstrating solar cooking to employees at the National Geographic Society headquarters in Washington. Demos like this have been an activity of ours for the past 20 years. Now, the Clintons, through the Clinton Initiative, launched a project in 2010 called the Global Alliance for Clean Cookstoves. And here is Hillary with Jose Andres, the Spanish chef who created World Central Kitchen. He recently received a grant of $200 million from Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, to expand his efforts. It's a good time to get into the improved cook stove movement. And you see there 3 samples of fuel efficient, low emission cook stoves that they're focusing on. So the Global Alliance created a series of international conferences, and I attended the Clean Cook Stoves Conference in Ghana in 2015 that gathered experts from 25 countries to develop an international standard for small household cook stoves. I attended to help ensure that solar cookers would be included within the scope of the standard. There were other annual conferences attended by colleagues with solar cooker expertise, including Dr. Paul Funk, who developed the original protocol, and Dr. Alan Bigelow, who works for another organization called Solar Cookers International. Here is Jessica Lewis, who works with the World Health Organization, and I worked with her to develop the safety standard for cook stoves. We now have these performance standards defined for power, efficiency, emissions, safety, and durability of all kinds of household scale cook stoves, including solar cookers. And we developed sets of tiers of performance for these parameters. At home, I built an instrumentation package to measure the standardized power of solar cookers. I conducted tests and experiments on most clear days for 4 years. I documented these in 37 technical reports that are posted on our website. I visited Messiah University in Pennsylvania and helped some engineering students to develop a solar simulator so they could test solar heating devices indoors. In 2011, we distributed some solar cookers to a refugee camp in Chad. As you can see, they don't have much wood fuel available, but they have plenty of sunshine. Jewish World Watch did a major solar cooker project in the Darfur region recently in that area. We also introduced some solar cookers in Mali, another country in Saharan Africa that has sunshine on most days. Louise Meyer led a field project in Tilori, a small village in Haiti, where we provided parabolic solar cookers to the cooks in the village. These women are in San Miguel, a small town in Oaxaca, southern Mexico. They're cooking their meals for 6 families using Roger Haynes solar cookers. No firewood to gather, no smoke to breathe, no work to do. And so the women just hang out under the shade of the trees and talk. They're getting to like solar cooking. This is an ongoing project that the director of Sophie Lyman, started in 2018. In my previous talks for ASA, I discussed issues associated with traditional cooking practices. Among them are respiratory health issues, climate change, deforestation, habitat loss, and excessive labor by women and children who have to gather all this firewood. The World Health Organization now includes solar cookers as a solution, and that's one of the results of our advocacy working with the Clean Cooking Alliance and other organizations. So as I showed in a previous presentation, solar cooking has a lot of potential benefits for poor people around the world, particularly women and children who spend a lot of time around these smoky cooking fires. And this causes respiratory diseases that kill millions of people per year, directly or indirectly. Solar cooking addresses every one of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, either directly or indirectly. I won't list them all here, but you can see that this has a lot of potential benefits. We also have a lot of opportunities for business development. There are several alternative business models you can think of, such as distributing these at exhibits and sales, distributing from roadsides, cooking food and selling the food as in a restaurant, many different opportunities. So we need to think outside the box and devise creative solutions. The tradition of cooking over a 3-stone fire is ancient and deeply embedded in the culture of many countries. It has social benefits, giving women a way of working as a team and providing opportunities to talk and work together. And campfires still have a lot of appeal. But is there a more productive and healthful use of their time? So as a result of my work in this field for over a decade, I've kind of concluded that the The work I've done is rather limited. It's been focused mostly on my own background in engineering and physics. Those I don't think are the main skills that are needed. Instead, I believe that the current needs in solar cooking include things like people that are in cultural anthropology or sociology or psychology that are working on understanding the sociology of cooking. It's a field that needs research. People typically look at cooking as just doing recipes, but what about the behavior and the cycle and the during a day in a sunny region? A lot of research could be done on this. So I encourage you to contact me if you have an interest in this kind of work. I'll wrap up with a quote from Francis Bacon. That states that the purposes of science are for the glory of God and for humanitarian relief. I encourage you to do something that fits your skill set. Here's some of my references.
All right, thanks, Paul. We have a few extra minutes for questions.
My question is, in Armenia, when some of these were used, villagers complained that the taste of the food was not as good with solar as with wood. Do you get that kind of issues? Paul?
Yes, Ken. In fact, I remember we discussed this at one point. I believe that what we need here is something like what Consumer Reports does with food testing. It needs to be done in a rigorous scientific manner as a double-blind controlled experiment. But in the work that we've done so far down in Mexico, we get testimonials all the time that the women love the taste of the food. So there's evidence here that needs to be pursued in a more rigorous way. That's one of the opportunities for some serious research on cooking that I'd like to see somebody pick that up.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you, Paul. Also, you didn't mention the cost of these solar.
Yes, that's another issue. We're interested in driving down the cost as much as possible, and I believe that the cost can be minimal if we use local materials and local labor. First of all, consider that making these things can be a job. It can be something that is marketable. So we're trying to drive down the cost to a few dollars, and the main cost is the cooking pot. And quite often you can use locally available pots that people probably already have. Most women in areas have stove stacking, which means they already have different ways of cooking and different size pots and so forth.
Jack, what's your question?
Well, first I want to comment that Ken Turan was obviously thinking about smoked brisket, and he wanted the taste.
Burnt ends.
Actually, that's a good point. And there is something called smoked paprika that is a wonderful ingredient that adds a smoky flavor to your food.
Aha, okay, you could do it synthetically. So my question, Paul, is have you grappled with the life durability of the coated mylar and its recyclability?
Yes, it's quite durable. The material that we use, that Roger Haynes uses, I took a sample of that and left it outdoors for a year, and it just got dirty. But when it was cleaned off, it was just like new. So it's pretty durable.
At the end of its life, what then?
At the end of the life of the material?
Yeah.
Yes, the material that he used was a metallized polyester film over foam polyethylene. So yes, it has some plastic component, which we would like to reduce. And that's another reason to consider using palm leaf or straw or some kind of material that could be woven. And women all over the world have these kinds of skills.
Thank you.
William, what's your question?
One question is, I know your driving force is looking at helping poor people, but do you see a potential for a market for middle-class people? I'd like to eat grilled food, but it's so hot in Texas, I really don't want to light up a grill, but a solar one of some form might be appealing.
Yes, absolutely. Roger Haynes is selling these on Amazon. Check it out. He has been selling thousands of these solar cookers, mostly to Americans. There's also, of course, the prepper community that wants to be off the grid and independent. And they love these kind of things.
Excellent.
All right, I see a question in the chat box from Chang Ho Yu. Would you like to come off mute and give your question?
Yes. So how long it take to cook a meal by solar cooker?
Yes, good question. Typically, it will take about for a typical pot of food, about an hour and a half in the sun will be enough to reach boiling. I add a caveat, though, that this means that's clock time. That's not labor time. The actual labor time is very short. It's just the prep time to put the food in the pot. In fact, as we speak, I have my dinner cooking outside in the sun in my yard. So there's no labor time involved.
Do they get stolen?
Well, in a poor enough country, practically everything can get stolen. So it would be a good idea to, if you are using a solar cooker, obviously it has to be done outside. It'd be a good idea to have grandma or someone around to keep an eye on the cooking and also to keep the goats out of the food.
That's a good one.